Okay, and we're going to let you all know we're going to start recording this, and we'll make sure that this is also on our YouTube page sometime tomorrow on Thursday. We're going to be talking today about the import and export tool, and we'll make sure that we also have time for your questions as well. We're going to have you on mute to begin with, but as we go through, we'll certainly ask for questions and make sure that you all have an opportunity to ask your questions, and we'll deal with any kind of issues that we need to. We'll try to stay on topic, and I will take you through this information as briefly as I can. I believe, Brandon, are we ready to go?
Yeah, we're all good. Whenever you're ready, Pete.
Okay, so I'm going to take you all through first, just looking at some of the ways to export data. And I'm in actually one of my tenants, and I'm just going to take a look at some of the ways that I've got these things set up. We've got some of the saved searches set up. There is actually an export button on the page when you do a search for your assets. And if you wanted to do an export of the results of your search, you can just click on export. You have a choice between an Excel and a PDF. When choosing the Excel, you can simply go and open up your document. And that document then will have all of the information for that search. And those assets then can be edited as you want in your Excel document. You can also do different types of exports for whatever is on the page. If you're looking for forms and you wanted to do an export of forms, you can choose those forms. Remember, when you're doing search, that you've got of searches that you can do. You can also search for forms by just going to the forms and then adding in your properties, doing your search, and then making sure that you've got everything there that you want. For this, if you wanted to do it by completed date and anything before yesterday, and you can apply that. And then you'd have a list of all of your forms, and then those all could be exported. And you'd have those in export form. With completed date, the asset number, and your asset description, as well as the type of inspection, the form template that was used, the result, whether it was a pass, fail, complete, and all that information then is available for owner and customer. So does anyone have questions so far about just those two simple exports? Okay, so you can always put your questions in the side. You can type a message on the side over there, and Brandon will make sure and get those up for you. So in doing your imports and exports, those will be found in the apps on the side. You'll be going to data management, and then you'll have your data export, data import, and a scheduled export. So for data exports, you'll select the type that you're looking for. You can export assets, asset location history. You'll remember on the assets, you've got a location history in the bottom right, and you can actually export that location history. You've got asset templates, attributes, customers, forms, form templates, and locations. They can all be exported. And all you would do would be to select what it is you're looking for. If you're looking for an asset, these are all the different ways that you can do the exports for the assets by numbers. You can do them by chip numbers, by owners and location. You can also do them by date. If you wanted to do the assets by manufacturer, you can also include attachments, and you can also do that by status. So if you wanted to do only an export of your scrapped or unable to inspect, then you can do those as well. And that would be the same for several of the others, your asset templates. You can export those. We get a lot of requests for the asset location. And with asset location, it's pretty much the same. You can do it by status, you can do it by date, by serial numbers, by owners. And then you would just hit the export and it'll bring it up. And I can just do this as an example for you. I can do an asset, and the asset number would be test. Remember, you can also change the context to where it would contain whatever it is you have. It could be an exact match or start with. I'll just do an asset contains. Now, remember also when you're doing exports, you'll also get an email that your export has been completed. You can do a refresh to help speed up the completion of your export, and then choose your download button. It'll bring it up. Then you simply choose, and then you can do whatever Excel needs you to do for those. So any of the assets that have test as a partial or full asset number will come up in that list. And then everything that is displayed on your screen also comes up for those assets. So any kind of attributes and any kinds of attachments that are also included in that. Anyone have any questions so far? Okay. So when you're looking at your data management for your imports, in order to import data, you'll want to select the different type of data that you're going to import. We'll look at assets, and then you'll want to come over to this download template here at the top and click on the download template, and it will open up then in your downloads file, and you'll be able then to open that file. Now, it's also going to show you all of the required columns, the required fields, in order for the choice that you've made to be imported into the system. So for assets, it's going to be the asset number, the description, the order number, or the owner number, the location, and the tag name and status. And the required fields are going to vary depending on what it is that you are wanting to import. You'll notice that I have several opened up here. For form templates, it's going to be the name, the form type name, and the tag names. So you want to make sure that you have tags already created in your system before you're going to import anything that has a tag on it. You can actually do this without the tags, but you wouldn't be able to search for it with tags. So it's a good idea to have your tags already in the system before you are importing data that you're going to be trying to do with that. You can also import attributes, and there are different types of attributes that you can log in. The Boolean is often get a lot of questions. What is the Boolean attribute? And it's when you're answering a yes/no question. So if it's round, if it's inspected, if it's beveled, anything that would be a yes/no answer would be a Boolean type attribute. You also have date, date time, which would include the date and the time. Drop down, which will have several different values. If you have length, it could be 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet. An encode attribute would refer back to an URL. And if there's a website that would go to it, or some kind of special coding for that, can typically be with a chip or any kind of a location, your numbers and your texts. And those are for attributes. You also have customers that can be imported. You would have the contact name for that. I'm going to enlarge this a little bit so you're able to see these better. You have your corporate name, the corporate contact email address that's required, as well as the address, the city, the state or province. You have a zip code, and then the country. And those are the ones that are required for doing your imports for your companies. You also have imports for assets that we have here, our data location and status. And you also have imports for locations, location, and then the tenant name. The tenant name is the customer or the owner of that asset. So you'll want to make sure that you have all of your locations and your owners in the system before you import your locations. I also did some examples for you to take a look at for imports of the different things that are taking place for your assets. So if you did an asset export of this test asset, this is the information that you would get for that export. And it would include the attributes, and if a schedule is included, it'll include your schedule as well. And what is required then for your import of that asset is the asset number, the description, the owner name, the location, the tag, and the status. And that's all it's required. But you have more information than that. With the download template that you get, there is one complete attribute download section. And if you have more than one attribute, you're going to want to copy the header columns as many times as you have an attribute. I've put these in different colors so that you can see that each one of the columns, whether they're used or not, needs to be included in your import, especially when it comes to assets and asset templates, forms and form templates. You're going to want to make sure that all of the columns are included. And let's just go over briefly what those columns are for your asset imports. You've got the name of your attribute. You've got the data type. We looked at that just a minute ago. It could be number, date, date number. Then the value, and the UOM is the unit of measure. It could be inches, centimeters, feet, but it's some type of measurement that is included. Now, your drop-down value would only be included if your attribute data name is drop-down. And then you would have your drop-down values. And those drop-down values, they could be 10 feet. And then if you have more than one, you would use a semicolon. And then you would put in your second. And depending on how many you have for this particular drop-down, just continue to put them in and make sure that they are separated by semicolons. For your schedules, you want to make sure if you have a schedule attached, your schedule is already created. So you can actually put this in for your schedule start date. You want to make sure and put the form that's being attached to the schedule. So this is a level 1 inspection. So we want to make sure that the level 1 inspection is already created in the system and exists in the system, so that when I import this, the system has a template name that I'm able to associate it with. You want to make sure you have your frequency unit. So this would be 1 year. So this refers back to the year. The warning interval, this is that warning period for schedules where the asset would turn from green to yellow. The warning period can be day, it can be month, it can be year, and your schedule warning unit would be then based on what your interval type is. So that could be 1 year, could be 30 days, could be 3 years. And please note too that you can have more than one schedule attached to an asset. So in that case, you'll want to make sure that all of the fields for the schedule are then duplicated, and that all the information for that second schedule or the third schedule is then included for the information that you want for this particular asset. So we can also look at asset forms. So this is a form template that I exported. I'll enlarge that so you can see a little bit better. The asset number, all the information, the tag names, the attributes, the different types that it has. And then if there is any kind of schedules. So you'll notice on the import that the part number, the tag number, the description are all that's required for your asset templates to come in. The manufacturer name I put in there as extra. The master template, we don't really have many of these templates that are used for master templates. Typically it's false. And then you have your attribute names, and you want to make sure that you have all 5 of these for your values. This happens to be a drop down, and each of my drop downs are then separated by a semicolon. And since I have no other attributes, those are the only attributes that I'm going to be putting in, then my schedule starts here. And for this, I would get a warning back that I didn't do anything correct because I didn't add the rest of my attribute headings. So you want to make sure that you've got everything else in there for your headings to make sure that you've got everything correct. So I would actually then select these, Control C, then go to the next, Control V, and then make sure that I've got them all correct. See here, I actually have a problem because I don't have my attribute names correct, because the schedule is pushing those out. So you can actually go and delete those. And then you would want to go back and make sure that you've got all of your attributes correct. So you start with attribute name and go through to attribute max value. Then you have attribute name, data type, value, unit of measure, and do that as many times as you need in order to get all of your asset attributes in there, and making sure that everything does match up with what you need, because it will throw back errors. If I were to import this, I don't have the correct attribute names up here at the top. I can just do another, and it'll put everything back through. And here my schedule starts, so I can go up here to the top. Control C. and put everything in. And you can have the colors. The colors won't make any difference for the system when you go back in and do the import. You can do the color coding that'll help you to make sure that you've got everything that you need in there so that you're able to do the import successfully. So I'm going to go ahead and actually choose this information. And let's say I'll stop because I know I want to answer any questions. Anyone have any questions so far? Don't see anything in the messages on the right. Brandon, everything going okay with you?
Yep, everything's good.
Yes. Okay, perfect. All right, then we will go through and do an asset import. Go over to the far right. Looks like I chose the wrong one. Here's my asset import. So this is the information that I need in order to do this. I'm going to name this, and we'll go ahead and get started on doing the import. I can then go back to my TESSALink. Too far. I'm going to do a data import. I am going to do an asset. I'll click on select files, go to the location where I saved the asset. So you want to make sure and close it. Then select your file. And here you'll see where you have all of the errors for what is happening. Those drop-down values won't match because I just made those up. Doesn't match the field asset import represents collection of data. You want to check the order of the group, the columns is the same. Template spreadsheets. So this is where we come in handy. So you can make contact with me or in support to help you go through and take a look at these to see what are the problems and to see what the issues are. You can send us a copy of this along with the information that you are trying to import, and then we can take a look at what is going on with the issue. See, for this one, the string of 10, 20, 30 feet was not recognized as a valid date time. Obviously, that should be a drop-down rather than a date time. But we can go through those problems with you and take a look at what the issues are, what is happening with the import, and really then go through that with you and test to see what can be done to help with the data so that it's imported correctly. Actually, it's a good experience and taking a look at the different ways that you import the data, you want to make sure and check your data before you do it in. Even sometimes when you check, there's still often problems with how the data is formatted. If there are blank spaces, if there are columns that are not included, all of those will lead to those error checks. And Brandon and I are more than happy to go through and take a look at the data. We just need to know what the data is. Taking a picture of this and then sending it to us is always helpful in that process. We can take a look at it, and then if you also want to send a copy of the Excel file that has your data in it, oftentimes we can go through and take a look at that with you on a Teams meeting. Take us maybe 5 minutes or so just to go through, take a look at what needs to be changed, so that in the future when you're doing imports, you have a better understanding of what can be included, how the format is, and maybe even have some pre-created templates so that you're able to use those on a regular basis. So I'm going to stop here, and Brandon, you want to see if we have any questions from those who are here this morning?
Yeah, let's see. There's none in the chat, but does anybody else have any questions?
Or maybe you have a circumstance or a situation where you've tried to do an import or an export, and it's more complicated than what I have shown you this morning, and you want to share an example with us, and we'll troubleshoot that for you. Okay. Well, then please know Brandon and I are always available to help with issues, whether it's with an import, export or not. I do want to remind you, if you happen to have users in your company who are using the classic version of our mobile app, I wanted to let you know that access to the classic version will be going away on the 17th of June. That's about 5 days away. If you do have users who are still using that classic version and you need to have training for them to be able to use the updated CertNet version, we're more than willing to provide training for them. But until then, we'll be having another webinar in July, and we'll be sending out information about that as well to let you know what our topic is. If you have a topic that you would like for us to use for a future webinar, you can get a hold of us at support@tessalink.com. Or you can also put my email address over here, and you can also get a hold of me, and I'll be more than willing to take a look at your suggestion, and we can hopefully use it for something in the future. So my email address is now there in the messages. If you want to take a picture of it or write it down, please feel free to get a hold of me, and we will do everything that we can to be of help and helping you to work efficiently and leverage the software for your use. Well, thank you all for being here. Hope this was helpful. If you have any feedback or want to get a hold of us, please do so. And until then, hope you have a great day and the rest of your week. Take care.
Hey, Peter.
Oh,
Peter?
yes. Yes.
When will the video be available?
Brandon, sometime tomorrow, Thursday?
Yeah, should be early tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Perfect, Mike. Thank you. Appreciate y'all being here.